during the year 2015, and to what extent these discoveries were important and could lead to more improvement and more attraction to the tourists and to the archaeological and touristic life here in Egypt. To shed more light on this issue, we are very much delighted to have our dear guest, Mr. Samir Abbass. He is an Egyptologist. Good morning, Mr. Samir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Abbass, and let's first take a quick look over the important highlights that happened through 2015 concerning the archaeological discoveries.
In 2015, I was struggling between putting this point according to the history timeline or according to the importance, and I figured out it's better to classify them according to the importance. And the first topic that will be about the Great Pyramid, the second one will be about King Tut tomb, and then we can go down on our list. So when it comes to the archaeological discovery in 2015, the importance of these discoveries is giving a hope for the travel industry in Egypt. And many of them actually has been done by local Egyptologists, by the way, and under the sponsorship of the Egyptian Interior Department, which is important from now on to have a good international reputation for promoting our new discoveries. One of the most important discoveries from my point of view is the infrared thermology scan has been done to the Great Pyramid, and the Great Pyramid is always viewed as the most important monument on planet Earth, in the eye of everybody around the world. Nobody can dispute that. And so, for what we know about the Great Pyramid is very little, especially from inside outside. We know about the three chambers inside the Great Pyramid, which is the underground chamber, and the King prayer chamber, and a smaller chamber which is wrongly named as a chamber, but in the eye of local archaeologists, it has nothing to do with the Queen.
Sorry, Mr. Samir, but we are seeing here some photos. Maybe.
So I planned for some photos. The first one is for Giza Plateau, and is that the right one? I cannot see it in the screen, but that's a landscape plan for Giza Plateau, which is showing where is the Great Pyramid. And the second illustration, which is the important one, which is showing the scan of the infrared thermology. Which is showing an interesting thing. There is difference in temperature, like 6 degrees Celsius, from the stone surrounding this hole, which is, in other words, it means that there is a gap, there is a hole, there is a chamber which is not being discovered yet inside the Great Pyramid. So, using this technology, we cannot figure out what is inside this room, but at least we know that there is a space, and that's just the first step. The first step encouraged the archaeologists to spend more time, and hopefully that will end in 2016, to figure out what exactly this room is. And from my personal observation, by comparing the Great Pyramid, for example, with a famous pyramid in Egypt, or important one, not famous yet, which is called the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid. There lies in Dashur. Both of them has been built by the father of King Khufu, which is the owner of the Great Pyramid. And for both of them built by Snefru, and they consider a very important step in the evolution of building pyramids. The interesting thing, which could be linked to this discovery in the Red Pyramid in Dashur, is when you go there, there is 2 rooms in the ground level, and they design very much like the Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid. But the wall, there is a gap on the wall. And these gaps most probably has been sealed by the ancient Egyptian people back in that time. Now to reach this gap, you use a wooden ladder to go up there. And this gap leads to a tunnel, and the tunnel leads to a room aligned east to west, while the other 2 rooms align north to south. Anyway, so which is mean that this gap was covered by a sealed block up at the higher level. That's most probably happened by the ancient Egyptians, supporting the discovery here that there is possibly a hidden chamber which is sealed by a block, and this block, if it was found, it will lead to a corridor and lead to the chamber. So what was found inside the chamber, which is I'm talking about, which is our reference in Dashur, which could be our guidelines to help us in understanding what's inside the Great Pyramid. Unfortunately, we found nothing. But the tiles of the grounds has been completely, and that is definitely not by archaeologists, and definitely should be by grave robbers. So the only thing which makes the grave robbers, which is desperate enough to remove these tiles from the ground, is they couldn't find anything in this room, and that's why they start digging like crazy, searching for any other tunnels. So, and another interesting thing when it comes to the Great Pyramid is the name. You know, the Great Pyramid, that is a Greek name, by the way, you know, interpretation, translation of the Greek name. There is a tomb known as Kar tomb. It's only 5 or 3 minutes walking distance from the east side of the Great Pyramid. And Kar, he used to work for the religious ceremony and the religious service given in the valley, or more specifically the mortuary temple of the Great Pyramid. And he put the names of Giza. Guess what the name of the pyramid back in that time? It wasn't the Great, it was the Eternal Pyramid. Eternal Pyramid, you know. Akhet Mer, more specified, Akhet Mer. And the second pyramid, which is the pyramid of Khafra, in the ancient Egyptian text, as it was mentioned by Kar in his tomb, is Wer Mer. Literally means the Great Pyramid. So when we talk about the Great Pyramid, from the ancient Egyptian perspective, you refer to the second largest one in Giza, not the first one. So that is, so I wish they are viewing the second illustration now, which is showing the infrared and showing the radar spot, which is showing the different temperature between both of them. The same technology used to scan Tutankhamun tomb. And that will lead us to our second topic, which is King Tut tomb. And there is 90%. There is 90% a chance of finding a hidden chamber inside the young pharaoh tomb.
So they expect it to be found, actually?
90%. 90%, you know, there is, but there is lots of speculations. And when it comes to King Tut tomb, you know, the importance of King Tut, he is very famous. And even his tomb is the smallest tomb in the Valley of the Kings, with unfinished decorations. Is very, very famous, and it's famous because of his collection, because the way the tomb has been discovered and the news about it and the mummy curse, and because of the Western media handling the story of King Tut. And add to that, it is the only tomb found so far for a king which is nearly intact, with 1,500 objects, which is considered, by the way, a very humble collection from perspective. But it is the only one which has been discovered. You know, think about a king ruled Egypt only for 9 or 10 years, and he died in the age of 19. And they found 1,500 objects, most of them covered with gold or made from solid gold. What will be the other kings will have? So, and the good news is there's still a possibility to find other tombs in the Valley of the There's still a chance to find some other tombs. So going back to King Tut tomb, and based on using the same technology, they found a possibility of a space or a chamber hidden behind the wall. And there is a British archaeologist, as far as I remember, he came with the assumption that it could be Nefertiti tomb. The idea sounds bizarre, which it sells very well, you know, but...
Why bizarre?
You know, because Nefertiti is a famous queen, and that helps in making the news spread quickly. But looking at, if that is right, we have to reconsider and rewrite an entire chapter of ancient Egyptian history, which is of the 18th dynasty and the transitions between the 18th dynasty and the 19th dynasty. We are talking about 1300 BC, which is 3,300 years ago, by the way. Why change the history written in that time? Because the Valley of the Kings is so-called the Valley of the Kings because that's where the kings buried, right? Nefertiti, she's not a king, she's a queen. And we have another valley in the West Bank of Luxor known as the Valley of the Queens. That's not only for the queens, that's for the queens and the royal family members. It could be the prince or the sons of the king buried there as well. So there is an exception in the Valley of the Kings, like Tawusrit tomb. Tawusrit tomb, that's KB 14 in the Valley. She's a lady, but she ruled Egypt. She managed to rule Egypt. Hatshepsut, she managed to rule Egypt as a king. But Nefertiti, if she managed to rule Egypt as a king after Akhenaten, her husband, that's a very big dispute. We don't have archaeological evidence to prove that. But we have another king we call the mysterious king who ruled Egypt after Akhenaten, and his name is Semenech-Kara. Semenech-Kara could be another name for, because normally when a king ruled the country, he take another name, a new name, which is called the coronation name. And that could be the coronation name of Nefertiti. But that will lead us to another dispute, another controversial, is based on the history of this period, So there was a big problem between the priestess of Amun, which is running Karnak temple and other temples in Egypt, and Akhenaten. And that's why he moved to his Amarna, Akhet-Aton. And that's why he built a royal tomb there in Amarna. And to have the tomb of Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings, which is the son of Akhenaten, is a proof that the priestess of Amun,